Hey again guys, it's Adam here. Recently woken up after a night shift, a little bit earlier than expected, so I'm a little bit groggy. Bear with me if I sound a little bit more mumbly than normal, but I probably won't. So, last night I put a few tweets up about Dead by Daylight. Similar sort of things I've said in the past about how I perceive the game, yada yada yada. But I want to make a video on it. I think it's a good topic. I think it's always a good subject to bring up, and I think it's important to keep bringing it up as well, because if people don't, the game just continues to go in the same direction, and there's no chance, however tiny and minuscule that chance is completely gone if people don't talk about it. So really, I want to talk about the lack of skill in Dead by Daylight, and I don't want people to get it wrong or feel some way offended when I say that. There are good players out there. Being a good player at Dead by Daylight to me doesn't always indicate skill. I think there is a definite difference between the two things of being a good Dead by Daylight player and being a skillful Dead by Daylight player. For me, a good Dead by Daylight player is someone who's efficient at what they're doing, whether it is pressuring generators or whether it is actually complete generators, splitting up, knowing hook states, all that kind of like information based, and just really doing well with the objectives themselves. That to me is a good Dead by Daylight player, but I don't think it actually indicates skill at the game. For me, skill based gameplay is like in the chase parts of the game, is understanding how to outthink, outperform, outmaneuver your opposition, and I think there's a lot there that doesn't actually produce a good outcome, and that's an issue for me. For me, the issue with Dead by Daylight is that skillful play doesn't always produce a positive outcome for one side, whereas being a good Dead by Daylight player usually produces positive outcome. Now, skillful gameplay, again, for me at least, how I see it, it's all to do with how you play in the 1v1, how you outthink your opposition, how you can know where people are at a certain time, get there, pressure them off the generators. Is as a survivor, how you can in the 1v1 use tiles and stuff, outthink the killer, know when they're going to go for a double back, when they're going to like you know try and hide the red stain, and overall just continue to outmaneuver, outposition, outthink the other side. It works both ways. The game, however, has a very poor understanding or poor use of that skill. Too often it gives you toys out of the toy chest that aren't indicative of skill. Instead, they just give you a helping hand without any sort of prerequisite, shall we say. So there's certain like killer powers, there's certain perks for killers, there's certain perks for survivors, there's certain like items, there's certain add-ons, and obviously there's certain like map tiles, or certain like palette spawn RNGs, and there's just a bunch of things that can all produce the same sort of feeling, which is you've been unfairly outdone by something out of your control. What does all this mean? Well, it means that somebody, a good player, or shall I say a skillful player, outperforms somebody on the 1v1 and they can come off worse. And that to me isn't fair at all. That to me isn't indicative of a good game. If, let's say, I want to play a killer and I reach a survivor before they complete a generator, I'll push them off, okay? We're in a 1v1 chase. We get to a tile and I do something really well. I hit them for it. That is a skill-based play element, and that has given me a positive outcome. That is good. That is what should happen. If myself as a killer gets a hit by me outthinking the other player, that deserves something. And in this scenario, I got a positive reward. But a few seconds later, the chase continues. We get to another tile. I again outthink what that survivor's doing. I know where they're going. I know what they're doing. I know what they're going to try. So let's say I try like a mind game. I hide a red stain. I moonwalk back. I spin around. They're on the other side of the pallet they should be. But suddenly, they dead hard. They managed to get past me. And let's just say the map RNG has allowed them to have a pallet really nearby, which happens more often than you think. Next thing you know, they're just dropping the pallet. I'm left struggling here, like not struggling, but here I am. I've got a survivor on one side of the of an ordinary pallet loop, and and it's within reasonable expectation to think that there's another tile nearby that they can get to. All they need to do is loop me around that area for a few, and chances are how close they were to that tile anyway, they can get to the same jungle gym or whatever tile I was thinking of ahead previously, and just use that as well. And that to me isn't indicative of skill-based gameplay being rewarding the player that produced it. That is situation or circumstances outside of your control that's put in the game that will unfairly dictate what happens. And it goes on and on. There's so many situations here on both sides where that sort of thing occurs. And I'll go back to my point about like Freddy. He's a killer that gives so much for so little. I know they're changing him at some point, supposedly. I don't know what they're doing with him. But he's a killer that gives so much for so little. And too often it feels like you're playing against a mechanic rather than an actual player. But Freddy has a lot going for him. He has high mobility. He can teleport across the map with ease. He can synergize really well with perks to let him know where people are, what they're doing. And he can just teleport around, pressure people off generators, use Ruin, Pop Goes a Weasel, whatever it might be, keep those generators even more pressured. He can get maximum use out of synergizing things. And then he's also got his Balls of Blood, which can slow people down and also give information at the same time. So whilst he should be a jack of all trades, Freddy can often feel like a king of all trades. He can do a lot and he can punish you a lot with very minimal input from the player playing him, which is an issue. These kind of situations just aren't good for the game. How to change it? I'm not too sure. But for me, moving towards a skill-based gameplay is what the game needs from my perspective as an experienced player. At least I see myself in that light anyway. I'm just fed up of my own and other people's skill-based gameplay getting unrewarded because somebody's got a perk attached to them, because somebody's playing a certain killer, a certain character, doing certain things, just using map tiles in like a, I say a scummy way, but it's not scummy, it's in the game and they're entitled to use it. But this game needs a jolt of skill in it. This game needs something to reward people who use the brain, who outthink, who outmaneuver, outposition. Because nobody should be outthinking another player and then getting nothing for it. That should not be happening. Perks, items, add-ons, map RNG, pallet spawns, all these kind of things should not be the main deciding factor on whether a skill-based interaction between one player and another player. Two people with brains, those kind of things should never produce the outcome. It should always, wherever possible, the main producer of an outcome should be the 1v1 skill-based gameplay between a player and a player, because at the end of the day, that's what the game is. It's individuals playing against one another. It is 4 individual brains playing against one brain. It's human versus human. And the moment you start allowing outside influences that aren't human to dictate an outcome is a moment it's not skill-based. It's not skill-based at all. And people need to get it through their heads that adding more perks to the game, allowing second chance perks in this game, allowing killers that require minimal skill, allowing perks that synergize with killers with minimal skill is bad. It always has been bad. Just because a DLC gives you shiny new trinkets for you to play with from your chest doesn't make it good for the game. It makes it interesting for you temporarily, but it's not good for the game. The game excels, and it excels really, really well. The moment skill-based gameplay comes into play, and it's a lovely, interesting, interactive 50-50 chance. At every tile and every situation in a chase, there's a chance for both sides to do well, to outthink, to outmaneuver, to outposition the other side. That is where this game excels. But the game, in its state, and for a long time, doesn't allow you to do that. It suggests you have an input, and you do have an input. Because if you put the perks on and stuff like that, the input for you is that. And you have skill-based interactions when you put them on. Don't get me wrong. You using those perks in a certain way at a certain time is a certain skill in itself. But would you do well without that perk? Is your skill the main deciding factor of you succeeding in those situations? Or is the main deciding factor of you succeeding in those situations a perk? Is it a button press? Is it a certain thing something does for you on your behalf without your input? Because that's what you got to think. If something helps you out without your brain, then it's not skill. You're just being propped up by something else. And for me, if I'm doing well, I want to be congratulated for my skill. I don't want something else. I don't want another influence to sour the situation. I want my positive outcomes to be applauded for that. I don't want any outside influence to suggest that there was anything other than my brain and my 1 versus 1 interaction with another player. I don't want any other influence to suggest otherwise. That was just me. And that's just where I am. I hate the fact that there's like Freddy Krueger. It's so easy. It's so easy to just knock down that player by suggesting or thinking that it's the mechanics that are helping them out. Not the player themselves doing well, but it's the mechanics of the killer that's helping them out and getting that outcome. Because so often it feels like that. So that's where I am, guys. That's why I have these points. This is why I'm so like passionate about this point with Dead by Daylight, because beneath its surface, and again, as I call it, it's bloatware of perks and silly mechanics. There's a really, really good game there. There's a game there that two opposing sides can showcase their ability, their skill. But I feel the game doesn't allow you to do that. I think the game allows you to prop yourself up with too many things too often a time, and it gets to a point where I'm too consistently indifferent towards it because of that, and that is a sad situation. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you understand what I was getting at, and yeah, happy killing and surviving out there. Take it easy.